So now we're going to continue with the ground proximity and the systems test buttons, as well as the indicator light. So let's go ahead and go back into our controller board for the MIP. Now, make sure I have the right board, and I do. Turn those off. Now I have 33 and 34 because you see I have two indicators here. I have 33 and 34. One is for the runway in-op, the other is for the ground proximity. And runway is not included in the PMDG aircraft, so we're not going to put that in. But we now know what our number is. So we're going to come back into the profile creator, go to output. We're going to come down to 34, and we're going to put in our ground proximity in-op. So you're going to add this. Modifier is going to be blank. Precondition is going to be blank. The output is going to be for the PMDG 737. The output type is LED. The output number for me is 34. Your number may be different. And the PMDG data is shown here in green. Just type that out exactly the way you see it, including the underscore. And the PMDG index is blank. And we're going to select OK. That takes care of the indicator. Now we're going to move on to the switches. So now we need to go find our switches and buttons. So let's come back into the MIP controller. We're going to go back to input, and we're going to press the systems test button here, and that is 49. Let's lift these up. As you can see, I have 4. It doesn't have the runway inhibit in the PMDG, so that one's not going to be used. So we have the flap inhibit is 50. We have 51 for the gear inhibit, and the terrain inhibit is 52. So now that we know what those numbers are, we're going to go put these entries into the MIP profile. Alright, now that we have our entries, let's go back to the profile creator and get them installed. We're going to come to input, and my numbers start at 49, so we're going to come down at 49. Let me make sure that these are in order here. Okay, and you're going to add all of these. So let's start with 49. The precondition is going to be blank. The input is going to be the PMDG 737. The input type is going to be switch. The input for me is 49. Your number may be different. This is the PMDG event as shown in green. Just type that out just the way you see it, including the underscores. The mouse press is going to be a left single, and the mouse release is going to be a left release. Now you'll notice as we go from 50, 51, and 52, and 53, or 52. 53 is the runway inhibit, and PMDG doesn't have that. You'll see that they're in here twice, 50, 51, and 52, because we have a guard that we have to remove as well as the switch. So let's put these in. We're going to start with the guard. The precondition is going to be blank. The input is going to be PMDG 737. The input type is going to be switch. The input number for me is 50. Your number may be different. PMDG event is shown here in green. Just type that out exactly the way you see it, including the underscores. The data press for me is going to be 1, and the data release is going to be 0. And now we're going to put the switch in. So the precondition is going to be blank. The input's going to be for the PMDG 737. The input type is switch. Again, the input number is 50. The PMDG event now is for the switch. Type that out exactly the way you see it, including the underscores. The data press is going to be 0, and the data release is going to be 1. Now we'll move on to 51 for the guard. The precondition is blank. The input is for the PMDG 737. The input type is switch. The input number is 51 for me. Your number may vary. And the PMDG event is shown in green. Just type that out exactly the way you see it, including the underscores. The data press is going to be 1, and the data release is going to be 0. Now we're going to put in the switch, and the precondition is blank. The input is going to be for the PMDG 737. The input type is going to be a switch. The input number for me is 51. Again, your number may be different. The PMDG event is shown here in green. Type that out exactly the way it's shown, including the underscores. The data press is going to be 0, and the data release is going to be 1. And we're going to move on to the last two entries here, and we have the guard coming up first for the terrain inhibit. The precondition is going to be blank. The input is going to be for the PMDG 737. The input type is going to be switch. My input number is 52. Your number may be different. The PMDG event is shown in green. Just type that out exactly the way it's shown, including the underscores. My data press is going to be a 1, and the data release is going to be a 0. And the final entry that we're going to put in here is going to be for the terrain inhibit switch. And the precondition is going to be blank. The input is going to be for the PMDG 737. The input type is switch. The input number for me is 52. Again, your number may be different. The PMDG event is shown here in green. Just type that out exactly the way it's shown, including the underscores. And the data press is going to be 0, and the data release is going to be 1. We're going to select OK. We're going to come up here and we're going to save our work. And then we're going to come in here and run this and confirm that our buttons and switches are working the way they're supposed to. Okay, let's finish up the MIP and then we can move on to the pedestal. So if we take a look at our systems test, we will press that and you'll see the in-out light illuminates on both. We'll come to the flap inhibit, lift that up, gear inhibit, and terrain inhibit. And as you can see, they all work the way they're supposed to. Alright everybody, up next we're going to move on to the pedestal.